I was in my late 20s when I met Bruce, and I had just got divorced, and Bruce was the most eligible bachelor that turned up working in our local social services as the manager. He was a bit of a head turner, nice linen jackets and the soft sand shoes, and the immaculate groomed moustache that stayed with him for the whole of his life. In our society, we don't talk about death anymore. Bruce was diagnosed in 2013 and he died in 2017. He had an advanced cancer of the esophagus. He was awaiting a further procedure for them to do a laparoscopy to have a look to see if his cancer had spread anywhere else. And basically, he was told immediately prior going into that procedure that actually cure wasn't possible. He told me it was done very sensitively, but he went from being somebody with hope of a cure to somebody who knew he wasn't going to live. And when somebody tells you you're a palliative care, your instant reaction is that you are dying. His whole being, his identity, was really turned upside down in the matter of seconds. The last job that he did for 7 years before he had to retire on grounds of ill health was Mental Capacity Act manager for Wolverhampton for the PCT and the NHS Trust. Quite highly regarded in this area because he had such a good legal mind as well as being a practitioner. As his illness progressed, he changed some of his hobbies to match what he could physically do. He built the most fantastic model railway, got into all of that kind of thing. And he was very supportive of me in terms of having a business, so he had to be the pony sitter while I was travelling the country delivering my training. By the summer of 2017, Bruce's cancer was becoming quite advanced, and he had the option of further chemotherapy, which probably wouldn't have been very successful. And he took a long time to think about it and decided that he did not want any further treatment. Bruce's first involvement with Severn Hospice was when he was referred soon after he'd been told that cure wasn't possible for his cancer. So he was seen at home by a specialist nurse who provided us with information and support. Bruce was then pretty well for a couple of years, and it wasn't until he started to become more poorly that we were then reintroduced to the Severn Hospice services. As his situation deteriorated, he was then offered the opportunity to come into the hospice for an assessment to help him manage his pain and other symptoms that he had. The experience of the hospice is absolutely, totally different to anything you've ever met before. I can still remember Bruce feeling quite surprised when they said, "And what is the most important thing to you? What do you actually want us to work on?" Totally different experience, starting from understanding the person rather than tell me what your symptoms are and here's my solution to it. The consultant who we saw spent the first 20 minutes actually just talking to Bruce about how he dealt with his own psychology, what was important to him, what outcomes did he want, what were his hobbies. He immediately said to him, "If you're a guitar player then, so docetaxel won't suit you because it often gives you neuropathy in the ends of your fingers." I left my home in Georgia. And one of the most great things he ever did when he was at the hospice was to actually get back into his guitar with a bit of help from a member of staff there that was able to support him in that. But But he was also able to make use of the other services like aromatherapy, some of the creative arts, and having his spiritual needs met by discussions with staff. Like all hospices across the UK, Seven Hospice receives some monies from government via the NHS. But that level of money doesn't provide sufficient, so a large proportion of their funding has to be raised directly from members of the public, companies, trusts, legacies, and that kind of thing. As a patient, there is no charge for the service, which is most unusual. Towards the end of Bruce's life, he had made it really clear that he wanted to come home to die. So part of the process that Seven Hospice were able to help us with was setting up practical help at home, medical help, and also emotionally preparing him for what was to come. He wanted quality. He wanted to be able to do what he wanted to do to the level that he could do it, and he was really clear on his own limitations. When I think about the type of services that Seven Hospice provide, I think you have to put out of your mind the idea that a hospice is a building and a place you go to die. It isn't anything like that. It's a service that runs across community, hospitals, and it's about ensuring that when the end of life does come, that their symptom management is offered to them in the most appropriate and ethical way.